A very good morning, good evening to all of you who are here. And it's a pleasure to be part of this India panel for the World Stem Cell Summit. When I got this invitation to be part of this panel, I very quickly accepted it because this is a new frontier area, which over the last few years we've been giving special focus on from India, and there is huge potential. And I thought this is the right opportunity to be able to not only convey what we've done in India, but also understand what really are the expectations which our scientists, our industry groups have, and how could they take this forward in terms of collaborations globally and also convey to all the various delegates and speakers who are attending from around the world what really is the India landscape, what are our policies that the government has put in place, and how we are trying to take this technology forward. So let me briefly try and give you this understanding of the landscape. And as would have been put into my introduction, I was the former secretary for the Department of Biotechnology. I've in fact grown in the Department of Biotechnology, spent 33 years of my career there as a scientist, and then moved up to the position of a secretary. So that gave me the opportunity to look at this evolving landscape at many points of time, being part of the various programs that got initiated, and then playing a crucial role in helping policy evolve, both in terms of newer activities and also in terms of the regulatory framework, which is so very important to take these new technologies ahead. The government of India has laid special emphasis on promoting new technologies across the field, and especially in healthcare, to make them affordable and accessible. Our thrust has been on building an innovation ecosystem that connects academia, industry, and of course the startups, fostering collaborations nationally and internationally, and seeing how we could look at newer technologies, adapt them to our own country requirements, and take these as new products, which can then very quickly be made available to the public. The Department of Biotechnology is, of course, the key focal agency of the Ministry for Biotechnology. But it's not only in the area of biotechnology, across the field of science and technology, across the field of new technology. We've been focusing on these newer areas and building a very robust ecosystem to take new technologies ahead. Stem cell and regenerative medicine has been a special priority area, which has been given special attention by the government in terms of building capacities, both in terms of human resource, in terms of cutting edge infrastructure, in helping build very important programs, which then help take new developments, new discoveries through the entire translational phase of technology development to be able to see how we can build products, which, as I said, then are made available to the public and are important for our public health needs. It was, I think, in the early 2000s that we, probably 2003 or 4, that we had a special regulatory guideline document that was brought out, because by that time, stem cell and regenerative medicine had already caught the attention of the government. We had researchers within the country who had begun working on this very important new technology at that point of time. Industry had started showing an interest. And while research was happening in the laboratories, we knew that it had to now move out of a laboratory to move into the translational and product development phase. And at points of time, commercialization, getting into public health systems. And this needed a proper regulatory ecosystem to facilitate that. The guidelines were important to let the researchers know what is it that they need to do, what is the data that they need to collect, what are those ethical guidelines which need to be followed, and more importantly, what really is the documentation which would be required, not just for products which will come out within the country, but India is always conscious of the fact that the products which we develop within our country must be globally accepted so that there is no compromise on quality. The Department of Biotechnology and the Indian Council of Medical Research. These are the two premier agencies of the Government of India, which have devoted a lot of their resources. And when I say resources, it's not just financial resources, but their human resource and others to be able to support programs in stem cell, regenerative medicine, and newer technologies. While ICMR was looking at building up the entire clinical trial registries and other such activities, the Department of Biotechnology was supporting the active research in that area. We supported a large number of groups who got into this new field, but most interestingly, we set up a whole new institute, the institute called INSTEM, which was of the Institute for Stem Cell and Regenerative Medicine. And interestingly, when INSTEM was set up over a decade back, more than that, it was at that point of time where it was thought that just by doing the basic research, which INSTEM is very good at doing, and I know there are panelists who will talk about the excellent work which INSTEM is doing, a premier institute of the Department of Biotechnology, there must be very close association with the clinical aspect. Because when you're talking of any such new technology, to take technology to the field, to take it to the patients, the clinical aspects are so very important for the research to be validated, to be taken through regulatory ecosystem before it moves out. And for the first time, a clinical research center was set up along with INSTEM. And what we did was not create a new center, but CMC Vellore was known for the work that they were doing on gene therapy, and we had Dr. Alok Srivastava and his group who were leading that. So the CMC Vellore Center for Research on Stem Cells became a part of INSTEM as an intramural research center co-located at CMC Vellore, so that the research that comes in will actually get connected with the clinical aspects of it. There was another group which was doing some wonderful work at that point of time, and that was led by Dr. T. Balasubramaniam, and that was the L.V. Prasad Eye Institute, which did that excellent work on stem cell, the retinal work that they've done, and we all know it's been published. And it's not only published, you've seen large number of patients who've actually benefited with that technology. There are a number of success cases that I can talk about in those early days when we began, but that would mean a full half-a-day seminar that I would need to give on that, with a huge lot of scientific data that got collected. I think the only point that I'm trying to say is that we were on track at that time. Just when this technology was gaining momentum, the potential of the technology was showing up, the government came forward to connect the public and the private sector, whether it was academic groups, whether it was research institutes, both in the public and private space, or the industry, who was then willing to come forward and look at commercialization of these very important products. And we have a large number of industries who then came forward. They showed their strength. For any new technology to thrive, for any new technology to be able to reach a level where it's affordable, and as I said, accessible, are two key philosophies that we focus on. It's very important that we have that critical mass of skilled human resource. And of course, access to cutting edge infrastructure. So while INSTEM was set up as our own autonomous institute, we built a large number of centers of excellence. And these centers of excellence were built across the country, in research institutes and universities, whether it was the SGPGI at Lucknow, or whether it was NCCS at Pune, or AIMS at New Delhi, or institutes in Bangalore and in the Northeast, in Kolkata, across the country. So we spread our ecosystem across the country to be able to build these centers of excellence. What were they mandated to do? They were mandated to look at not just the basic research that they were taking on for new technology developments, for new target diseases, which they were building, but training and capacity building was a very important aspect. Because if you have to scale, we needed this cohort of very well-trained scientists and clinicians who would take this ahead. And that was the time when we started building very strong collaborations. Across the world, India has been one of the preferred partner for collaborations, whether it was our very major collaboration on stem cell regenerative medicine was with the group in Japan. We built collaborations with UK, with US, with Australia. Some of them were bilateral government-to-government collaborations. Some were through the scientists and the lab level collaborations. There were calls which were put out. And at the end of it, we had about these 30, 40 excellent groups in the country who were working in national and international collaborations. Having supported research and brought it to a level where it was now recognized as one of the frontier technologies, we had already started seeing the fruits of it, where we had, as I said, success with LV Prasad Eye Hospital. We had some of these industries who came forward, Stempeutics and others who had started showing success. But it was important to build the ecosystem through a set of shared research resources, whether these were cell line facilities, whether they were banking facilities, whether they were access to this common, very high-end equipments which could be made available to the groups. So then the next focus was on building this shared infrastructure. The shared infrastructure that we created was not just very important for the academic institutes, but by that point of time, we had started building a very strong, robust startup ecosystem. And to be able to encourage startups to get into this very, very risky area of research, because there were no clear returns that were being looked at. It was important to motivate them. And I think that is where these common research facilities, shared infrastructure became very important. The Department of Biotechnology in 2012 created its own government-owned company called BIRAC. And BIRAC is a unique model which was set up to be able to foster this startup ecosystem. And BIRAC then worked with industries and startups in the first of the kind which the government did, and that was of creating a risk fund, where grants were given to startups and industries to take on high-risk research, innovative research. And stem cell regenerative medicine was put into that list of priority. And there were about 9 or 10 projects that we supported. And that was the first time that a very clear message was given that we are now looking at supporting high-risk research, which is high risk, but we had anticipated very high rewards. And I think that's really which took us on the path of this, this area of being able to look at newer technologies which come into the area of regenerative medicine. The stem cell center that we had, the CMC center, which Dr. Alok Srivastava heads, has actually gone a long way now. They have been tackling through gene therapy, hemophilia, thalassemia, and sickle cell diseases. They're using different approaches, whether it's the lentivirus approach, whether it's the gene editing approach. And it's very heartening to see that their lentivirus-based gene therapy has actually got the regulators' clearance, and they've begun the first in human clinical trial studies. They've already started enrolling the patients, and those clinical trials have begun. We are looking at the next, maybe as per time frames, it's about, I think, 2 years before they would be able to finish it out, get the successful data, and gene therapy as a therapy we are hoping should be approved for patients. And this would be a huge, huge success point for us within the country. There are other success cases which they've been able to put in. The main focus now is to try and see how we can set up GMP facilities which actually do the manufacturing of these lentivirus and other such tools which are required, which can make this technology more affordable and, of course, the products more affordable and accessible. Through the National Biopharma Mission, which has been along with the World Bank set up by the Department of Biotechnology in BIRAC, we've actually supported a GMP facility for lentivirus production. Working with industry again has been, as I said, one of our major strengths, and we've seen success because we worked along with them. We've had startups and industries that I spoke about, but what was very encouraging was when we saw even many of the industry groups coming forward to promote stem cell and regenerative medicine and new technologies like RT cell, etc. Dr. Kiran Majumdar, along with a group of other industries, have actually promoted a new company, a new startup, Immunil, which has been set up in Bangalore with the Narayan Jalai group. This startup, again, has the strength of working with a clinical group, but having a GMP facility. They are in collaboration. They've been able to bring technologies into the country, which we hope with the clearances from the regulatory ecosystem, they would be able to take forward. But what was very interesting was when we got academic groups moving into the clinical trial area. I just spoke about Alok, and then we have this interesting group which is sitting in IIT Mumbai, Rahul, and working along with Actrec and CAR-T cell technology, a technology that we always thought was only something which would be for the elite because of its obviously huge costs that have to be borne for technologies which come from overseas. Making it affordable for our Indian patients was a challenge that we've all taken up. And IIT Mumbai, along with Actrec, has now taken up this technology development, which was originally supported by DBT and BIRAC, and now they're into different other phases. They've again started their clinical trial. I think the key message that I'm trying to convey to you is that the government of India has worked along with its entire stakeholder group, whether it's our academic institutes, whether it's the industry, whether it's the startups, to see how we can promote newer technologies always, and in this particular case, knowing the potential of stem cell and regenerative medicine, seeing what really are those components of the ecosystem that we need to plug in to be able to make this available and accessible. Continuously, there has been a review of the guidelines to see what newer components need to be brought in. DBT and ICMR have been working. We brought out revisions of the guidelines, and then I think 2017 were the revised guidelines, but very recently now, with the CAR-T cell coming in, newer guidelines have been brought in along with the drug regulator, which can help take research from the laboratory through the translational phase, through clinical trials. The fact that the CMC Vellore group was the first group in the country which got clearance to be able to take on clinical trials for the gene therapy trials itself was the first case that has happened, and I'm sure there'll be many more that come on. So that is really what we have been doing in terms of focusing on newer technologies. Having done this in-depth ecosystem creation, it was also very important to see that our groups can look at taking their collaborations forward in a big way. And we are now trying to see whatever we can do to support it. With the US, India and the US have been excellent partners in terms of collaboration in all areas, from agriculture to energy to, of course, healthcare. There's a whole Indo-US health summit that we do each year, and there's a whole high-level US-India health group that has constant discussions on what could be the various areas of collaboration. One of the most successful programs, of course, with the Department of Biotechnology has been the Indo-US Vaccine Action Program, over 33 years of partnership, which has actually now in COVID times given us the rich dividends it's paid in terms of helping our research groups to be able to have access to the resources and to be able to take their vaccines out at a faster pace. I think that is the sort of partnership we need now in these new research areas, especially technologies like regenerative medicine, CAR T cell. The reason I say that is these are high risk technology areas. There is a continuous research which is going on. And when we have collaborations, these collaborations, and again, I refer to the Indo-US Vaccine Action Program, it's not about finances being put together. It's a very unique partnership. We don't really put together finances to support collaborative projects. We bring together the best of experts from both the countries, who then on a continuous basis guide our research groups, whether it's industry, whether it's academia. So on either side, whenever we meet at least twice a year, we bring in whatever our key issues are in research, in collaboration, in translation, in industry, commercialization, in manufacture. And collectively, the experts help resolve it. They bring in those connections and partnerships are built. And of course, we do support those areas where we feel we need to set up joint centers, joint collaborative projects, but all to support those key challenges and gap areas that come out through these conversations. And I think one message I would like to give this large group here is, let us establish something like this as a joint Indo-US stem cell regenerative medicine, a new technology group that can help research groups, both in the public and the private sector, to come together and build collaborations. Because this technology, and COVID has shown it to us, all these healthcare technologies do not have a solution for any one country only. The solutions that we build are available across the world. We address these problems globally. And I think that's really what groups collectively can offer. I look forward to this conference giving a set of recommendations which can help build teams, which can work together and take forward the potential of many of these existing technologies, but the way technologies are evolving, even looking at many, many more, because today we need more emphasis on manufacture, we need more emphasis on large-scale development, and of course, more emphasis on large-scale deployment to make them affordable and accessible. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. I've tried to convey briefly to you what we've done, but more importantly, what is the potential. And I hope that this would lead to some good collaboration between groups across the world. Thank you so much.